Hello everyone. As we all know, hopefully by now, Alpha 7 has been released. It was released 2 nights ago, and I'm only just getting on to my first impressions now. Simply because I've been playing it for pretty much every hour since it came out, and I want to get, a better understanding of my first impression before I made this video, simply because with all the new players getting their hands on it and how chaotic it is and a couple bugs and everything, I want to give you my full Alpha 7 impression after playing it for about 2 days straight. So first off, we're going to go through the changelog. A lot of this stuff, we saw in the Alpha 7 preview, so not too much new information here, but they do release the change list that has the exact changes. So first off, right here, they are explaining, the info sheets about how many people can it carry, how long is the respawn timer, how many tickets. And I think every player needs to learn this. I think this should be a little more accessible inside the game, but for now, this is just on here and it's got to get committed to memory. But yeah, if you haven't seen this, go ahead and check it out already. It gives you all the information you need to know, especially about vehicle claiming. It gives you the rundown and the tutorial of how vehicle claiming is. So if you want to learn that, go over here. Once again, we're not going to go into these kind of things, mainly just my impression of the overall patch. So yeah, all this information is if you're playing squad and you don't know how it works, learn it, because it's going to be extremely important. So this is pretty much a text guide, and right here down at the changes is where we're really going to get into it. So binoculars removed from all medic kits. This has been awesome. I personally thought that there were 2 binoculars within squad, and if there's 2 binoculars, there's too much knowledge, and with that knowledge, the game just gets really blank. It's really easy to read movements and see movements and be able to counter them. But with the addition of fewer binoculars, that fog of war really steps into play, and you really feel more restricted on vision, and I think it makes the game more dynamic because you can't really see everything going on now, and it's just, you get surprised. You genuinely get surprised when, a BTR rolls up on your flank and you couldn't see it because you didn't have those binocs, and it's just awesome. It makes you have to be a lot more vigilant and careful with your movement, and I personally love this change. So they also made a small change to fire support kits, and I think this was kind of geared towards the RPG and the needing of RPGs and anti-tank weaponry with the addition of vehicles. So they made it easier to get more specialty fire support kits instead of the basic rifleman kits, because AT actually has a purpose now. They also gave the US medic and lat red dot sights, and all the medics have been complaining about this for so long, and it's really nice to see that their cries are being heard, and that the red dot's now being put on the medic kit for the US, because everyone was always complaining about that. Also, the US iron sights rifleman kit has a foregrip. Now what the foregrip does is it reduces your vertical recoil, but it increases your weapon sway. So it's really interesting to see them kind of buff the iron sights on riflemen. They also increased the SVD ammo. I don't necessarily know if this was needed. I mean, 6 magazines, that's a lot. I mean, you guys have seen so many videos where I make 4 magazines work, and I think that maybe 6 is a little too forgiving, but we'll see if they change this value. So the Russian kits, they changed it from the AKS to the AK, so you don't get that, shortened stock version of the AK. Now you get the full length model. So, that's an interesting tweak. It kind of buffs the Russian kits that had the AKS. And then same thing with the Insurgent RPG gunner. They buffed it to the AKMS instead of the AKS 74U. So small buffs all around. And then an additional scoped rifleman for Russia and militia. This is going to counter the US optics, especially with the addition of the M110. It's nice to see that Russia and militia don't get left behind and get that extra scoped rifleman to challenge that. They adjusted the kits. Okay, so they tweaked the rifleman kits. This isn't too big of a change. Before you could have like 3 fighter kits, but now they limit it to 2. I mean, that's not really a big change in my eyes. So we're just going to glance over that. And then they removed the colored smokes. So I talked about this actually in a Reddit post a little while ago about how squad leaders had too many smokes, and it's really nice. I don't know if I influenced this change at all, but it's really nice to see that they are listening to someone in the community and they reduce the amount of smokes, because before this patch, squad leaders used to be able to smoke an entire objective, like freaking the entire like compound or whatever by themselves, because they got like 8 smokes, and you would just see SLs just sit on the side for like 30 seconds popping smoke after smoke. So it's really nice to see they limit that kind of asset. And with squad ops and everything, I'm a strong believer in that when you limit the assets, more tactical and more emergent gameplay happens, because players have to think about what they're doing. Moving on to the heat rounds, this is pretty obvious. They added heat rounds for the Humvees, the BTRs, vehicles, anti-vehicle rounds, and they added fragmentation for infantry. And even the amount of rounds that RPG gunners can hold is pretty asymmetrical across factions. Like the US LAT only gets 2, and then militia insurgents get 4, and then Russia gets 3. It's really cool to see them do this asymmetrical thing. I think it also helps the dynamic gameplay and creating, instead of completely balanced matches, you see these really cool tactics because one side is stronger than the other in a certain regard. They added the M110. As you saw, I put up the footage for this match with me using the M110 on Nightcora, and it's awesome. It's accurate, it feels good, it sounds good. The only gripe I have with that is the scope. It's technically an ACOG, but zoomed into 4 times rather than, or maybe 10 times. 10 times or 8 times, I'm sorry. But it's supposed to be, the ACOG is supposed to be 4 times, and all they do, it's a temporary fix. They're going to be adding in that 10 times or 8 times scope as time goes on. But because they kind of tweaked the ACOG to, as a band-aid fix, the ACOG is like shifted up on the screen and to the top of your screen. So I know they're going to fix this. This isn't me complaining. It's just something that, kind of annoys me, but I know that they're working on it, so it's all good. They added the scout kit with the SKS. I love the SKS. It kicks hard, and there's no full auto, so it's like not the best weapon, but it sounds and feels so good. Like as soon as you pull that trigger, you hear that thunk, and then the rifle just, you can see the recoil, and it's just awesome. I think the SKS is like probably my favorite gun, even though it's complete trash. But yeah, kit will get more toys in the future, so I'm excited to see what this means. Maybe they'll, I don't know, give it mines or something. I don't freaking know. But maybe they'll do something cool with this. And then they added another fighter kit with the optics. That they said they're adding that optics kit for the insurgents, which is helpful because they're going up against more optics this patch. But yeah, and then they added the G3A3. Just like the SKS, it feels good, but it kicks like a motherfucker. This gun, literally, you cannot full auto. I mean, it sounds so good. It feels so good. It feels powerful. But it's just, the recoil is insane. And then the sight is this like tiny circle with a little dot. So the sight is like, ugh, but like it sounds and it feels good. I like using the SKS and the G3A3 simply because they're new weapons and they just feel really good. But yeah, and then they had the G3A4 for the squad leader. Same thing with the G3A3. Feels good, but kicks a lot. And then the PPSH. I actually have not been able to use this rifle yet. I don't know why. I just never get the kit. There's only 1 per insurgent squad, and I really need to get some game footage of this because it sounds good. Like, you can hear it off in the distance whenever you're moving through Samari or something. You just see that, and you're like, holy shit, that's a PPSH. And it's just, I don't know. I think it's a really unique weapon in this, out of all the kits that you can have, the PPSH is one that really stands out to me, and I really want to get my hands on it one game. Weapon handling, they did a lot of stuff, and I love it all. So when you sway back and forth with your mouse, you can kind of see the rifle twist and kind of lean whenever you're making rapid turns. So the alignment takes a little bit longer, and it's slowly turning squad away from the twitch shooter because you can't snap to people. You're gonna get that kind of weapon sway and that realignment. I like how they're making these tiny changes that all affect the pacing of the game. And they went to so here's they talk about the foregrip and how it lowers the recoil, but it also has faster sway. So basically, they're making all these small changes that people don't really think about, but really what they're doing is they're slowing the pacing and moving it further away from twitch shooters. And I love this. I want this to be that slow tactical shooter that plays fluidly, something like Arma, but plays really well, functions really well. The engine is smooth, the controls are rapid, everything flows together, and that's where squad's headed, and it's perfect. They are not disappointing me. They're like it's amazing how well they're doing right now. Also, it looks like they wow, I didn't actually know this. They lowered the recoil with grenade launchers to simulate the added weight to the front. Wow. I did not know this change. Huh. But they add more sway. So basically, it's a foregrip. The under launch. Wow, that's amazing. I need to do more practice with this and see if I actually notice a difference. So they tweaked the M4 recoil. I think they lowered it. They nerfed the recoil, so it's easier to shoot the M4 now because it doesn't jack all the way into the sky. So I like that change. And then they decreased the deviation from the RPGs and the LAT weaponry so that you can pretty much hit the target you want most of the time. Rather than in V6, the deviation was pretty large. Like it could land like a good 25 meters in a different direction. But it's good that they made them a little more accurate, because in V6 I found the deviation to be kind of horrid. And then they added the M2 and the G.Skill. They buffed it so that you could shoot longer. I don't really mind this change. I think I would have rather had it in V6 so that you could only burst instead of, sustain fire. That's just me though. Deployables, the vehicle repair depot, so to repair your vehicles and everything. They made sandbags really cheap and Hesco bunkers. I like this. I like building fobs. Everyone knows I love to build fobs. So all these changes where they nerfed, or they kind of buffed the cost so that it's really cheap now to build a lot of things. I love it. I can build a lot of stuff really fast. They also added a new pillbox sandbag. It's awesome. So like if you put a normal eye sandbag down and then you put a pillbox sandbag on top stacked, if you crouch, it's the perfect elevation. So I love this thing. I'm gonna start making like sandbag pillboxes everywhere. But yeah, they need to fix the razor wire. I'm not sure if they know, but you can walk through the razor wire and it doesn't do damage right now. And then yeah, really good changes. And then the tripod HMGs are cheaper. So I love that, because having a tripod one cost as much as a bunker one didn't make much sense earlier. And then a whole bunch of weapon damage stuff. Which vehicles can be damaged by what. I mean, this is a pretty long read, but it's pretty much like certain vehicles can't be damaged by anything by 6.2, like the Humvee. You can't. The only thing that'll hurt the Humvee are like the rockets and the 50 cals. You can't hurt it with small arms fire, but like the technicals you can hit with your 5.56, 7.2, and you'll do damage to it. So it's cool that they have that kind of element into it, and it's not just everything can be shot by small arms, or everything can only be destroyed by rockets. It's really nice to see that kind of change. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. And then bullet penetration. This is the occupants of the vehicle thing. This ties in with the vehicles and the kind of weapon damage that they can take. So sometimes you can shoot through the walls and you can kill the infantry inside, like the technicals and stuff like that. Players now, this is a really big change that's kind of hidden in here, is the players now move slower when moving along inclines and upstairs. This slows the game pace down, and like I said before, I love that change. They need to slow it down, because I don't like seeing and playing like, oh, sprint here, sprint there, sprint here, sprint there. If they limit the sprint enough and they slow it down enough to where walking's the main travel movement, or jogging, then it's kind of my ideal game, where like you take things slow. You got to clear your certain areas. You can't just sprint everywhere, and it's not like an arcade shooter like Call of Duty where you're sprinting, drop shotting people, and snapping people and one tapping people. I want to move away from that, and this is a really good change. Just all of these system changes are amazing. You walk when you're aiming down sight now, and then the acceleration into full sprint has been decreased by half, so you can't just like zip out of somewhere and just freaking zip around a corner and stuff like that. I love that. And then the prone animation, this kind of is helping them with the prone situation. In V6 and earlier, you could go prone and your gun would always be ready to shoot to the front, even if you're crawling. And it's really unrealistic, having your rifle pointed to the front while you're crawling. So it's really nice to see that while you're crawling forward, your weapon kind of goes up and to the left as if you're cradling it. And it prevents like players from just walking around prone, being ready to shoot 24/7. So I like that change. UI. So I have a couple gripes about the UI stuff. There's a couple things in the UI stuff that I do not like. The 3D markers. I hate these. As much as I use them a lot and I see how they're extremely helpful, they completely ruin my immersion. And I don't feel like this should belong in squad, simply because, like, when you think about it, there's nothing in squad that kind of goes along this kind of interaction. Like this seems like cartoony and arcadey, and there's nothing in squad that seems like this matches up. And this is, I don't know, I just don't like it. Either give me a possibility to toggle it off so I don't see it, or remove it entirely. But I know it's helpful. I know it's helpful. I use it all the time because it's helpful. But it's broken because I can look like 200 meters away and get an exact mark on someone, and then repeat exact marking that person as they move in any direction. It's kind of, I don't know. I don't like it at all. It's too arcadey for me, and it's just too exact. Because you can really pinpoint someone out, and you can do it continuously. Maybe if it was on a countdown timer where, like, you could only make a visible marker once every, like, 2 minutes or something. But, like, if you can make visible marker after visible marker after visible marker, it's the same thing as Battlefield's spot function. And I think it's atrocious. But we'll see what they do with that. Hopefully they just give me an option to toggle it off so that people like me can have it removed, but people that want it still can have access to it. Because I know that the vast majority is going to use this because it's extremely helpful. But, you know, I'm for that. I'm all in here for the immersion and the hardcore stuff. Let's see. Yeah, just going over the general function of those, and then other UI changes. They changed the fob icon from a square to from a triangle to a castle now, so that's good. And they just added a whole bunch of art. They added EVGA. I played on EVGA like 5 times. It's freaking amazing. I love it. I know they thought it was going to be really boring because it's like an open map, but I love EVGA. Because I love doing transport logi. Like, I freaking love it. Like, just driving from point A to point B and dropping off 13 guys to assault an objective is just so satisfying. So EVGA's like, right now, EVGA and Gordok are my top favorite maps. Sumari's a close third or second. But EVGA and Gordok are tied for my top 2 favorite maps. And then second place is probably like Sumari. And then third would most likely be Kohat. I like the big maps. I like seeing that vast amount of terrain and traveling it, and just seeing people from across the map, and just like dealing with that large paper to work with, or that large drawing board that you can work with, is just awesome. They added a night version of Korra. That's it. That's my third favorite map. So it goes Gordok and EVGA tied for first, followed by Sumari, followed by Korra. Korra's freaking amazing now with vehicles. I just wish you could like kind of break down walls, because like it gets a little annoying when you're stuck with a vehicle with all the walls. But other than that, Korra is freaking awesome. Alright, that's pretty much it for that. And then modding, they added a lot of modding stuff. And then, if you haven't seen this yet, this is the Bloody 7th mod reveal trailer, which is basically a World War II conversion mod for Squad. So go check that out. It's nice to see someone this, or something this intricate, is like, look how good that looks. Looks pretty freaking good. Anyways, that's all. That's everything for today. We just pretty much got my actual first impressions of V7, of everything in its entirety. Just generally my thoughts on the changes, and, you know, my experience so far. And I gotta say, it's been fantastic, except for the fatal errors that happen every now and then. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I hope OWI continues to do such an amazing job heading in this direction, because they're really blowing it out of the water. And you know, I gotta thank them, because I love this game like I've never loved a game before. It's insane. Other than that, thanks guys, and I'll see you next time.